Man, I told myself I was never going to do this again, but here we are. What's up, you guys? Welcome back to Avenged Media. If you're new here, my name is Nick, and today is a super exciting day. We've got a new project car for the channel, and one that I have always wanted and have a little bbit of history with if you've been watching for a long time. But before we get too far into it, I'd like to introduce you to my new 1998 Nissan 240SX S14. Well, there she is. I know it doesn't look like much right now, but hear me out. This car has a ton of potential. I think it's one of those cars that has all of the right things wrong with it. And there's a few reasons I wanted this car in particular. If you've been watching the channel for a long time, you know I had a 1995 Nissan S14 a while ago. I was building a 2J for it, caged it, and was trying to learn how to drift with that car and realized I was going way overboard. If you think about learning how to drift, just pick up a Z, you'll be good to go. Learn from my mistakes. But when I sold that car, I knew I wanted to get back into an S chassis, specifically an S14 at some point down the road, which is what this car is. So with the prices of S chassis going up exponentially every day, I knew I had to get into one before the prices got even crazier. And the way I looked at it was the price was right on this car. I bought it from a friend. I'll tell you guys more about the story of where this car came from in a sec here. But I figured for what I paid for this car and what cars are going for, like you're gonna pay $15,000 to $20,000 for a clean Kouki S14. Easy. And all the stuff that I'm going to want to do to it is going to be an additional probably $5,000 to $10,000 on top of that. So looking at that, I would rather spend the money to restore this car and make it absolutely perfect and exactly what I want than buy a car that's already fairly clean and have to do the performance modifications that I want to do and do some of the restoration work to it anyway. So this is the perfect chassis for what I want to do. I'm going to pull it in the shop and we'll talk a little bit more about it. All right, so we got the car inside. Let's talk a little bit about the history of this car. So like I said, it's a 1998 240SX. I picked this car up off a good friend of mine, and he actually bought this car from Forrest Wang about a year ago. Forrest had this car sitting in a shipping container down in Arizona, which is perfect, super dry place, no issues with rust or anything like that. My buddy picked it up, brought it back to Seattle, and it was one of those cars that, like, I was talking to him about it before he bought it, and I was like, if he ever sells that car, I have to buy it. And as you can see, I couldn't help myself. Like I said earlier, I have always loved the S14. It's probably my favorite body style of the S chassis. I go back and forth between the S14 and 15, but I absolutely love the 14, and I've always loved the Kouki body style. This one is a 98, so I thought it was cool that it's the last year of that generation. And you get a lot of people that swap a Kouki front end onto a Zenki. I wanted to find a true Kouki. This one is a true Kouki. It's a 98. As you can see, it's missing the front end, but you guys will see we've got that taken care of thanks to our friends over at OEM Part Specialties here in a moment. So let me show you guys the car in a little bit more detail. Like I said, the front end is missing and these fenders are pretty banged up. Don't worry about that. We've got all of that covered though. Now, if you can notice, it does need a new core support. This is very, very common on these cars that they'll need a core support replacement. Fortunately, you can still get a new one from Nissan, and there is one currently in the car. So we're gonna get this whole thing replaced here, have a brand new core support on the car, but the frame rails are completely straight. It's still got the factory wheel tubs in it, and those haven't been modified at all, which was important to me because I want this to be a super clean street car and maintain a lot of the OEM aspects. So that's all straight, there's no damage there. It's even still got the factory battery tray. Like, all of this is original. The only thing that got damaged was this got pushed in here a little bit, but we'll get that all replaced. And what really appealed to me about this car was its body is so straight. Like, other than a few dents and dings that can easily be pulled out with some paintless dent repair, this thing is immaculate. It's very dirty right now. We'll take care of that in a future video and give it a full detail. Slight indentation on the roof here. This is pretty common on these cars when they ran the little visor in front of the sunroof here. So we'll be able to pull that out. We'll just take the headliner out and have the paintless dent guy pop that out. Fortunately, I've got a really good guy for that. As you can tell, it is a sunroof car. A lot of people want a slick top. I actually really like having a sunroof in this. I know it's, you know, one more thing that can go wrong or break or leak or whatever, but because this is going to be a street car, I really like the fact that it has a sunroof on it. So as we work our way around the car, you can see the quarter panels are completely straight. The fenders have been rolled, but they have not been pulled, which is great. Rear end is pretty good. Unfortunately, at some point, this car did lose its Kouki taillights, which is a bummer because those go for a lot. I know because I just paid a fortune for a set, but we will have a new set of Kouki taillights here. Unfortunately, those are one of the parts you can't get new, but I managed to track down a set that is super, super clean. I'm really looking forward to that. The trunk is real straight. Nice body gaps here on both sides. As you can see, it's got all the factory glass. The rear end is good. Now, unfortunately, one of the downsides on this car is that someone decided to jack it up by the spare tire well at some point in its life, and it split the metal at the seam between this metal piece on the back and the actual spare tire well. We'll throw it up on the lift here in a second and I'll show you that, but I've got a plan to get that fixed. Same thing on this side. Super, super clean, very minimal dents on this side. Like I said, all stuff that can be repaired by a paintless dent removal guy. It's a little bit of a mess in here right now, so bear with me. But another one of the perks of this car is that it does have a full interior, got all the door cards and everything. Like I said, it's a bit of a mess right now. My friend did pull the steering column out because he was working on some of the stuff on the inside of the car, but that is all there. We'll get that all assembled. You'll notice the dash does need to be replaced. Fortunately, got a new one over there that is super clean, and I've got all new trim pieces to go down here, so we'll get all those replaced. Like I said, all the right things wrong came with the dash, so that's huge. The door cards are super clean. The only thing I don't like about it is that someone cut a tweeter speaker up here. I may keep it because I am going to put a stereo in this car, but I've always liked how the dash and the door card here are like this seamless kind of rounded piece, so I'd kind of like to find one maybe without that. We'll see. Either way, super glad that it has door cards in it in the first place. It has the whole rear seat. That's all there. Like literally everything is here. The sunroof, the headliner is super clean. Like the car is in really good shape despite being kind of a mess, but we'll get that all cleaned up. Like I said, we got a brand new core support, so that'll be going on the car. I just cannot wait to get working on this thing and get it cleaned up and just get it to a state where we can see like what it really looks like when it's not such a mess. All right, so let's talk about the front end. Obviously, the entire front end is missing. These fenders have seen better days, but I told you not to worry about that. And that's because, boom, this is just super exciting to look at. These are all brand new OEM Nissan parts from our friends over at OEM Part Specialties. And our recent partnership with them is one of the things that really inspired me to do this build, because I know we're gonna be able to do it right. Having help and support from a company that has all the OEM parts that are still available. So just to give you a quick rundown of what we've got. New OEM Kouki hood, new OEM metal Kouki fenders. Evidently, these were the last two Kouki fenders still in cardboard in the country, which is super cool. Like I kind of geek out over that stuff. We've got JDM front and rear bumpers, brand new. New Kouki headlights, Kouki corners, turn signals. Like the list goes on and on. Tons of OEM clips, bolts, everything we've been collecting. These are part of the headlight bracket. Got a new window regulator, I believe it's called. Those oftentimes go out on the car. Somewhere in here, I've got a new hood latch. Yeah, this guy right here. So with the new core support, we'll have a brand new hood latch. Like, we're going for a full OEM refresh on this car. This box down here is the JDM window visors, which can be kind of hard to find. We've got a Nismo rear strut brace in there. Like tons of awesome parts for this build already. Again, this is all from OEM Part Specialties. You can use code Avenged10 to save 10% on all of your Nissan parts, whether it's OEM parts, JDM parts, Nismo parts, they've got it. They are super helpful, and this build is gonna be awesome at the end, largely in part because of their help. So go check out their website. I'll be sure to link it down below, and I cannot wait to see all these parts on the front end of this car and make it look like a car once again. So like I was saying earlier, this car really has all the right things wrong with it. One of the things that I really liked about this car was when I looked under it, there is not a speck of rust on this thing. And that's a huge advantage for this car, having lived in Nevada and Arizona most of its life and then being stored down there. This thing was in a super dry climate, and it shows in a good way. So I'm gonna throw this car up on the lift and show you guys what it looks like underneath, and show you a little bit more of that spare tire well damage that I was talking about earlier, and we'll walk through what I have planned to get that fixed and make it look like it never happened. All right, she's up in the air, so walking from back to front, this is the worst part of the underside. This is what I was talking about here. Someone unfortunately decided to jack it up here, and it split the metal right there. So Yes, you could just hammer this out and reseal it, but I want this car to be OEM fresh. Like, I want this car to be like a full restoration style build. So what we're gonna do is replace all of this metal here. And unfortunately, because this got bent up a little bit as well, we're likely gonna have to remove that and this piece here. So it's gonna be taken apart all at the spot welds and repaired in. Now, fortunately, this is crazy, you guys. I got so lucky. We've got the back half of a super clean Kouki that was unfortunately totaled out. I'll show you where the damage was on that. I found this on Facebook Marketplace. The guy was giving it away and I immediately rented a U-Haul and hit the road to go pick this up because, as you'll see, the sheet metal on this is perfect. The back side of it's perfect. So we'll take the metal off this and the metal up here and use it on that car. But just to give you an idea, like, I guess this was an old lady who owned it. She had been the original owner the whole time and was unfortunately T-boned, but like, look at this. The fenders aren't even rolled. Like, it's so clean other than where it got hit. And you'll see it got hit pretty good in a T-bone accident right over here. But I had to pick this up. This is gonna be perfect to use as our donor car to get that metal replaced. And then if anyone else wants the good fender, the glass, or like any of the parts off of it, we'll be able to sell it and make some money off that to put into this guy. But continuing up the car, so my friend did have the subframe out. He painted this. I think I'm gonna get my subframes powder coated black just to make them super factory. So we're gonna pull this one and the front one out, but he did put all new GK Tech polyurethane bushings in, which we will definitely use on this build. You'll notice there's no diff in the car, but I do have the diff for it. We're not gonna keep the S14 diff. We're gonna go with something a little bit beefier. We'll touch on that later, but all stock arms, that stuff will all go. It's got Nismo struts on it, which is pretty cool. But like I said, this thing is super clean underneath as far as like any rust or anything, like it's just dirty, that is all. And there is far too many of these cars that are just hammered underneath. So to see a car that looks like this is pretty awesome. Frame rails are pretty straight. You know, you've got some minor dents here. That's the kind of stuff that happens if, you know, you go over a speed bump and bottom out. But as a whole, like, super straight car. So this is the stuff I was talking about, that when I saw it, I felt like this was a really good platform to begin a build with. Like I said, we'll pull this subframe out, get that powder coated. We've got a full build ahead of us for sure, but this thing is just really, really clean. And I'd love to make it even cleaner, potentially do some dry ice blasting if we can make that happen and make this thing just super, super nice. Got the car back on the ground. So I'm gonna go ahead and start pulling a lot of the stuff out of the trunk, interior, all these loose pieces that were in it for transport or just from when it was disassembled at some point, so that we have a clean starting point with this car. I'm gonna get everything out of the trunk. One cool thing is these are actually like a Project Mu rear disc setup. It allows you to retain your factory handbrake, if I'm remembering correctly. They're worth some money, so either we'll use them on the build or we'll sell them and put them towards some other parts. But I'm gonna get all of that cleaned out, pull the core support out of here, pull any loose parts out that we can, so that when we go to detail this whole interior, which will happen in a couple videos, that we can actually get access to all of that stuff. Now, one thing that I like to do is have one of these tubs for every one of my builds. You'll see I've got them over here for the Subaru and the Z. And these are just where I put all my spare parts, anything I've taken off the car, or, you know, we'll maybe use at some point. It's just a good way to stay organized. With a build that's gonna be this intensive, organization is gonna be key. We're gonna spend some time getting all these parts organized so nothing gets damaged here over on the rack. But I wanna start getting this ready to a point where we can actually start working on it. So I'm gonna throw you guys on a tripod and we're gonna get to organizing. I swear every 90s JDM car just has like a heap of wiring that's been added. This is primarily stereo stuff. At one point a stereo was added. I'm gonna tear all this out because we're gonna run new wire a lot cleaner. So I'm gonna wait to do anything with this. I don't wanna just cut it. I just wanna double check before I do it. But that's all stereo stuff. This car did have a battery relocation in the trunk at some point. So we'll pull that wire out from the bottom of the car. If we do decide to put a battery in the trunk, again, we'll run it in a cleaner fashion. But I'm gonna leave that wiring in the trunk for now, just until I can trace it back up and make sure I'm not cutting anything important. Really don't think I am, but I always like to double check on those things. Onto the inside of the car. All right, boys, that's some progress. Got all the loose parts out of here. Obviously, this carpet needs a thorough vacuum and total clean. I'm curious to see what it looks like once we actually clean it with like a carpet cleaner. This carpet may be salvageable, and if it is, we'll use it. I know there's a couple kits out there that you can get, like a remanufactured one. So maybe we'll just opt for a black carpet. It's got a full back seat. All the plastics are there. Seat belts are there. Like I was saying, this car has good bones. Like there's a lot of good with this car, and interior wise, exterior wise, like this is a car that definitely deserves to be saved. There's plenty of clapped out 240s. This is not gonna be one of them. This is not gonna be a drift car. Like we're gonna bring this car back and make it super clean. Now, one interesting thing, someone at one point did convert this to an S14 cluster. It's a cool looking cluster, but like I said, I want this car to be kind of full restoration, very OEM plus. So we're gonna work on getting an S14 cluster for this. So it has its original cluster. The car has already been converted to a manual. It was originally an auto car. My friend went ahead and sourced a brand new manual clutch pedal. So we've got the manual clutch in there. And what's cool too, a lot of times people just chop this brake pedal. We've got an actual manual brake pedal in there. As you can see, there's the hole for the steering column. This is probably where I'm gonna leave off on the interior today, but we're gonna do a full interior detail on this thing and get all the panels cleaned up, shampoo, vacuum the carpet, obviously vacuum the seats, pull out all this loose wiring. Like all of this stuff is not OEM. We're gonna get that pulled out and clean up the wiring back here. Like I said, we will put a nice stereo in this car. We've done Pioneer stereos in all of our cars, so I'm gonna go ahead and put one in here and make it a really, really awesome sound system. And I guarantee you the wiring won't look like that because that is atrocious. And like I was saying, I've got all new trim pieces. I've got a new piece here, the new surround that goes around the stereo, the shifter surround. The car did come with the center console, but when I pulled it out, it's pretty scratched up, so I wanna find a new one that matches the condition that I'm looking for. Obviously this dash is gonna go, like I said, we've got a replacement for that. I'll probably put that in the interior detail video so we can kind of see what this interior starts to look like. I do wanna find just one of these dead panels here because someone added a little blue light there and that just bothers me. Like, doesn't need to be there. Probably for an alarm or something at some point, but we're gonna get all this replaced. And you're starting to see the potential that this car actually has. And here's the aftermath of the car clean out. I tried to keep it somewhat organized as I was going through here. This is my trash pile, obviously lots of garbage. This bumper is smoked, split down the center, big crack above the exhaust. We're not gonna use that. Like I said, we've got a JDM replacement. I'm gonna hang on to all these nuts and bolts because you never know when those could come in handy. Parts like this that go underneath the car will get powder coated. This is all trim stuff that goes around the steering wheel. Obviously we're gonna wanna keep that, so I wanna get that all protected. The Zenki taillights will sell, they're not worth much, but don't need those. Steering wheel, don't need that. Like I said, did come with the center console, but it's a little bit more beat up than I would like. So we'll probably sell that one and find a better replacement for it. Got our cluster surround, like a lot of good parts here. I'm gonna have to get this all organized. Oh, you guys will like this too. So here's the new core support, look at this. Brand new core support from Nissan. Like how cool is that? So that'll be all super fresh in the car once we actually get that installed. This is one of the trim pieces that goes inside, literally hasn't even been opened yet, but brand new plastic pieces for the center console like I was showing you guys. I will open up all of this stuff in a future video and we'll actually get it fitted on the car at some point just to see what it looks like, but I cannot wait to get all of this stuff unboxed. Like this is just so much OEM goodness, and like this was another reason why I wanted to build this car, because even if you buy a super clean Kouki, it's still not a brand new hood, brand new fenders, brand new lights, like all of this stuff. We've got a brand new grille. Like you just don't get that brand new finish. So when we're done with this car, I guarantee you it'll be better than what we could have bought for that $15,000 to $20,000 price range. Yes, we'll have spent more, but in the end, it'll be the result we're looking for, and I can't wait to get there. Fresh bumpers, come on guys, this is gonna be awesome. So if you're excited to see this stuff all get unboxed, stay tuned. That'll be in an upcoming video here. For now, I'm gonna go ahead and get this stuff all organized over here so it doesn't get damaged while it's sitting around in the garage. Got everything nicely organized over here, looking like Tommy F. has a storage room or something. But tons of Nissan parts to go on that 240. Like I said, organization is key with a build like this, and I wanna make sure we're organized from the start. All right, you guys, I'm gonna wrap up this week's video here. We've got plenty of 240 content coming. The next video you guys see, we're gonna fully detail the exterior of this thing. I wanna get all the dirt and grime off of it, decontaminate the surface, possibly polish it just because I wanna see what the paint looks like. I am debating keeping the car black. I think we're gonna have to do a full respray on the car, but I've always really wanted a black car, and I think this might be the one. So I wanna see what the paint looks like, see if I like the OEM color, and also I just don't wanna look at a dirty car in my shop, so we're gonna get this thing fully cleaned up. Now, for those of you that made it to the end of this video, I do have a question for you. Obviously, we're building this car. I've got the 350Z over here. Like I said, the 240 is gonna be a street car, but I've been going back and forth with the idea of selling the Z just to have some extra funds for this build. Obviously, that would help make it happen a lot quicker. I don't really want to sell this car. Like, it's finally really where I want it, and I would like to go drifting more. I'm just torn because I haven't gotten to go drifting as much as I wanted to, and while I enjoy driving this car, even on the street, I'm torn if it makes sense having the money tied up in this car when I'm as excited about the 240 build as I am. But I want to hear your feedback. What do you guys think? Should I sell the Z, put the money into that? Should I keep the Z, build this thing a little bit slower and have both of them? I want to hear your feedback down in the comments below. But that's going to wrap up this week's video. Until next week, peace out, and I'll see you guys soon.